Welcome back, Visions fan. Ready Player Will here. This is the final part 3 Hope character review, the optimization. Now, this is honestly a very difficult character review to do because he is obviously skewed more for PvE, which means there's a lot more conditions to making him work, exactly fine-tuning him the way you need him to. So just general recommendations honestly aren't that helpful because at the end of the day, it really is going to come down to how you actually need to control him to achieve the exact micro goal that you need to in your PvE content. Now, I'm going to try to obviously approach this from a Guild Wars and Arena optimization, but it's obviously very finicky. So just jumping into things, we're going to go through the normal Esper Synergies, the weapon optimization, the vision card analysis, and the Truststone. So the Esper Synergies, probably the most comprehensive part of this. What you really want to look for is the light attack up, the magic attack up, the cast activation time down is a really important one. Magic percentage certainly helps, and any kind of bulk and survivability, you want to get them to be specific to your matchups. Now we look at a broad range of Espers overall. These are a group of my favorite. I do think these 5 on the left are probably my personal favorites. I think the ones on the right, and I'll start going right to left here, just my least favorite to most favorite. Mind Flayer and Cactar, obviously both very low cost Espers that are valuable for some of those limited cost situations. I don't really think they offer anything the other ones don't though. The Bloody Moon one is really more for the spirit and the accuracy. Those are two specific build components, intangibles if you will, that if you need to put on your hope, the Bloody Moon is a good candidate because those are two things that he leans into. He needs the accuracy for some situations, and he is also naturally anti-magic in his build, so that extra spirit helps. Freeze is kind of that same idea, but this one at least has the magic attack 15 as well, so a little bit more on the modifier side of things despite having a slightly lower magic stat than Bloody Moon. And you have to recall, Hope is naturally a little on the slower side as well, so the Espers are really one of the places where you can gain some of those lost agility points, so that's why the ones on the left really start to cater more to that weakness overall. Where Carbuncle I like a lot for both the light attack 25 and magic attack 15. The upside here is that you can also skew for some dark or missile resistance depending upon what you're seeing. White Dragon I actually think is a great candidate here. Definitely the higher magic stat. Definitely takes a dip on the modifier to only 15 magic attack in this Esper build, but you at least get the slash resistance 15, which he does not have a ton innately, so that helps. And the TP 10% can also help too when you consider how often he might buff in certain maps, so that extra TP will allow him to more consistently cast those buffs. So I like that intangible. Sheraton I like just purely from a bulk perspective, where naturally a little bit higher on the HP side of things, that AoE resistance of 5, the slash resistance of 15 that we just talked about, and the crit evade of 15 as well. Only magic attack modifier of 15, so again, skews a little bit lower on the modifier side, but you trade that for the survivability, which is kind of what Hope's forte is. So I think Sheraton does fit that mold. Valfor might be my personal favorite. That cast time down 200 is just so critically important on an Esper. The light attack and magic attack also really important modifiers, but obviously this skews a little more for offensive output than some of the bulk that we've seen on these prior ones. And Bahamut is the same, where you get the highest agility on this Esper by far, also immense amount of modifier for damage output, and the magic 25% makes that magic stat skew for the technically highest on this list. So Bahamut and Valfor definitely more for the damage output. Sheraton, White Dragon, Carbuncle more for some of those bulkier builds depending upon your matchups. And then the last 4 are really just for those more niche situations when you're hunting for certain attributes. There's obviously other great Espers that have magic attack and accuracy on them. You know, you think of Shiva and Ramun, they're a little faster as well. But again, you're really fine-tuning things once you start going down that path. Now, we talk about the weapon optimization. It's unfortunately really only one weapon. He equips boomerangs, which is unique to him. There's only one boomerang in the game. It's the Air Wing. This is okay. 172 magic is definitely a nice enough stat. The 20% magic resistance penetration certainly is nice. I wish this offered just a little bit extra in the way of either like a box stat that's unique to Hope or something a little more unique. It's a good weapon, but I really don't have much to say about it. And it's unfortunate that you're kind of limited to putting it on him. But we won't spend too much more time in this lamenting on the lack of weapon options. We get to the vision card analysis. His in particular, obviously, again, more of a PvE oriented card just by the nature of having the max damage increase of 2500. But this does have some legitimately good stats for Hope on it. The magic attack 10, the AoE resistance 5, the magic 20%, the buff and debuff duration extending by 1 turn, which is really awesome when you consider he's got a lot of damage amplifying buffs for teammates, so that it helps them do their damage for longer. Magic 30% certainly helps him with his high base magic stat, and the accuracy 25 does address a serious deficiency in his overall accuracy as well. So I like this vision card, but there's honestly a handful of others, and unfortunately it's so party dependent I can't actually give a valid recommendation, and you're going to see why as I go through these. So my first #1 option is definitely the Bahamut vision card. This is still one of the best vision cards in the game. The unit resistance 20, the magic of 50% is still impactful there. Agility is very important over that 8%. He still gets magic attack and HP while getting extra 4 agility from the card, some extra spirit, some luck. Overall, excellent card for Hope and for your light party. But this is where things start to get a smidge more niche here. I also genuinely like the Valfor Vision card quite a lot. But again, there's a couple nuances to this. Number one, the Dark Killer is only applicable for going against dark enemies. If that's not the case, this card gets less value. This also has excellent magic attack resistance penetration, but again, depends on who's in your party. If it's only Hope as the magic spellcaster, this only applies to him. So again, very niche to who gets value out of this. The magic attack certainly does go well with characters like Jaden and Elena, who although aren't traditional magic attacks, magic type attack does apply to their slash and missile scaling abilities. Now stat wise, the 15 TP is great, the magic of 30% is awesome, the AoE resistance of 10 is excellent. Stat wise, definitely a great card for Hope, but again, you're talking about very limited upsides for your party members depending upon who you're using. So great card, situational. Carbuncle is the next option here, kind of the same idea here, really more niche for your matchups. The missile resistance of 20% is cool, but again, only specific to the matchups you're seeing. Spirit of 8 is definitely a nice benefit, but again, specific to who you're seeing. And the defense debuff resistance, I actually do like this one. We're seeing a prevalent amount of defense breaks in the game, so that 40% of party certainly is nice. And the unit effects definitely are good too. I will say I am immensely let down though that he does not have access to this Ruby Rejuvenation ability. If he could use this ability, I would see significantly different upside for Hope as a character. But Carbuncle is certainly an option. I think the next one here, Oath of a New Dawn, again, very situational. This is not a bad card. It does not skew very high on the magic stat side of things, but you can put it on magic users. It obviously does give him some benefits for the extra light attack, and certainly the luck percent here is more for helping your evade teammates. So again, really catering toward Elena and Locke. The acquired AP and the light resistance of 20% is obviously meant for those light mirror matchups of sorts. So again, very situational for who you're going against and who's in your party. I do think some of the classics here aren't that bad. Solidus is certainly a good one. I actually like. It's got magic attack up. The HP 25% is great for bulk. The slash resistance, little power creep because there's so much slash resistance penetration in the game, but still an overall solid card. And the same can kind of be said for Trousseau here. That decreased activation skill time of 100 on here really doesn't impact many of his breakpoints significantly. It certainly does add up when you start considering Truststone passes and things the like. The magic attack is really the shining star of this though, where again, it affects people like Hope and Jaden and Elena. The dark resistance is nice, but again, niche to those situations where you're seeing dark enemies. But that's really it for the light vision cards in a nutshell. It's not that there's bad options, it's just so subjective to who else is in your party and who you're going up against in terms of getting those resistances, who's getting the magic buffs, who's getting magic attack buffs, acquired AP, yada yada. You see kind of the problem here that I'm talking about. There's a lot of cards that are really great on a Hope, but I can't really recommend them because I have no idea what the rest of your party is. But at least you know the general ones to look out for. Now, we finally wrap things up here with the Truststone Optimization. Not a ton of surprises. The left side here, HP and Luck, two of the best ones for him. The Luck is way more for his accuracy than anything. In terms of passives to hunt for, the typical ones, HP, Luck, Crit Evade. I do like the magic debuff resistance as well. His base magic is high enough that when you do debuff him and break his magic stat, you will see noticeable difference. The rest of it, again, matchup specific as always. For the right side, I think agility is probably the most important one. Again, you really need to make up for that slow agility innately, but I do think he's a good candidate for the magic one as well, where again, I normally recommend the AP Truststones, but that's really for physical attackers. Him being a magic unit and having that naturally high AP level obviously doesn't need that. So I do like the ability to potentially buff his magic stat up, add that extra spear penetration, and accuracy at the end of the day. This third one is obviously great for going and shoring up that massive weakness of his. Now for the passives on the right side, I don't think any surprises here either. Magic 20%, decreased activation skill time 200. I actually do think the magic attack 10 and light attack 10 are good for him, given that the boomerang is only the magic resistance penetration. Now me personally, I've never really had to gear much for these modifiers because many of the light weapons and light characters already have light attack of some sort in their equipment. But if you want to amplify Hope's damage, and you should if you plan on using them, these are definitely good ones to hunt for. And the spear penetration of 10 obviously great as well. So I wish I had more to talk about here for the Hope part 3, but it's just so specific to the content you're using. It's very hard for me to give a confident recommendation of like, this is great, this is the best thing for Hope, and this is where you're going to use 90% of the time. It's like, well, no, it's the matchup and your team and the content. And it's not always true for most characters, but it's most definitely true for Hope. So this at least hopefully refresh your memory on some of the things you can use on him, so that when you do come to those opportunities where you're trying to get the most out of him, you'll at least be able to recall this and get him to do exactly what you want. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll talk to y'all soon.